going to read from this collection of short stories, something else altogether. Um, which, if anybody's interested, you have to just drop me an email at dhanebury@hotmail.com, and I'll put that in the chat after. Unfortunately, my publisher went belly up not long after he published my book. Not because of my book, I hope, but other reasons. But that's the way it is in the publishing industry. So I do have copies, though, so I can certainly send them along if anybody wants one. But this story I'm going to read, I think you'll see why it fits in with this talk about spirituality and fundamentalism and all those things. And mysticism came out of a trip I made to South Dakota, probably 10 years ago now, and visited a place called Hot Springs, South Dakota. And that's all I think I need to say to tee it up. And it's partly based on the trip, but the rest of it is fictionalized. So it's called The Gift of Water. A warm river runs through the middle of Hot Springs, South Dakota. And the locals tell Harley that in the winter, it steams up the narrow valley and takes the edge off the encroaching cold. They have built a walkway along the river's edge and included a gazebo where the kidney spring flows out of the ground. Many people claim that water has healing powers, and some have even reported seeing Mother Mary in the vicinity of that gazebo. She's also known as Our Lady of Compassion, Our Lady of Mercy, and Our Lady of the Lost and Found, says Harley. He's reading off his phone as we wait in line for a psychic reading at the Flatiron Coffee House. What else are you going to do on a Saturday night in a small town, South Dakota, that doesn't involve alcohol? I thought it would be a good way to get us out of our hotel room, and Harley didn't argue. He rarely does, even though he has zero belief in anything he can't hold in his hand. Just one couple stands ahead of us in a narrow hallway that leads to a separate room where the readings take place. The poster had pictures of Nikki, the reader, medium, with the likes of George Harrison and Mick Jagger when they were in their 30s, so I'm guessing she will be in her 60s by now, like us. A couple of teenage girls stroll our way from the main part of the coffee house, where the wooden tables sit crowded with local men and women eating cinnamon buns and drinking herbal tea from hefty ceramic mugs. Old scrub boards, flat irons, and wringer washer parts hang on the walls, real frontier stuff. They must have spent a lot of time in those days scrubbing things clean. The hot water from the springs would have been a godsend. The two girls look like sisters. The taller one blonde and willowy, the shorter one a bit less blonde, but heading in the same slender direction as her sister. Their faces have that fresh scrubbed shine of the young before they realize how beautiful or vibrant they look, or how life can deal you some dark surprises. They make me think of the pictures I have of Harley and me when we were first dating back in early high school, so I can't help but smile at them as they join us in the lineup. Are you waiting for a tarot card reading? Asks the younger one. You bet, I say. My husband wants to know if he married the right girl. Tarot cards are satanic, you know, and you're going straight to hell, the blonde one says. If you don't read the Bible every day, you're going to hell too, says the younger one before I even respond to her sister. I glance over at Harley, who stops scrolling on his phone and looks over his glasses at the two girls with a small grin parting his gray goatee. I can tell he's waiting to see how I'm going to handle this one. I know better than to try and reason with them. Harley would have asked if we could bring marshmallows with us, or told them that everyone who's lived through a Winnipeg winter prays to end up in hell. When I look back at the girls, they're staring at me with their bright blue eyes opened wide in defiance. Sorry, we're from Canada, I say, as if that might exempt us from the one-way ticket to hell. Before they can respond, I turn around just as the door opens into the reading room, and a bulky woman in a bright cotton print dress brushes past us and heads toward the tables in the coffee house. The young girls latch onto her and follow her with a chorus of proclamations about her eternal damnation. Meanwhile, Nikki, the psychic reader, pops her head out the door and says, "Who's next?" The couple ahead of us steps towards the door, but the reader raises her open palm. Sorry, only one at a time. You're welcome to purchase a separate reading, though, if you'd like to stay in line. The couple look at each other for a moment, and the woman says, "You go ahead, honey. You're the one who wanted to talk to little Ronnie. I'll wait for you in the truck." "But you wanted to talk to him too. Why don't you go?" He's a lanky man in his late 30s wearing a crisp denim shirt, black jeans, and a scuffed pair of cowboy boots. Judging by the tan on his neck and face, I guess him to be a farmer of some sort, or maybe a highway worker laying down blacktop like someone in a Bruce Springsteen song. "You need this more than I do, honey. You can tell me all about it afterwards." She takes him gently by the hand and guides him toward the door. She looks a little older than he does, with traces of crow's feet already showing around her eyes. Her arms are sinewy, and I can picture her hands deftly shelling peas on a farm porch somewhere in the Black Hills we drove through yesterday. Her hair starts off straight, but fans out into a frizzy mass that falls onto her bare shoulders. "Okay, baby, it's not like I'm going to forget a word he says if he comes through." He turns and heads into the open door. Once the door closes behind him, the woman turns to us and says, "We lost our little Ronnie 4 years ago, and my husband still can't sleep a full night through. School shooting. Other kids got hurt, but little Ronnie was the only one that died." "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that," I say. I can feel her pain like it's my own, sharp and jagged as a piece of glass in my abdomen. Sometimes I think it's like the women are all connected through a universal womb that soaks up the pain of the world and reflects it back to us. Harley and I watched a documentary once of this tribe in Africa where the women all raise their babies collectively, nursing whichever baby is closest when it's hungry. I remember thinking how it seemed the most natural thing compared to what we do nowadays, all squirreled away in our own homes. "We got a letter from the president saying he was going to do everything he could to make sure that never happened again," she says. "We still got it in a drawer somewhere." Harley and I look at each other for a half second before I put my hand on her bony shoulder. "Look," I say, "my husband and I were hoping to go together too, but just out of curiosity, we've never done this sort of thing, so it doesn't mean much to us. I think we'd both feel better if you took the money we were going to use and spent it on yourself instead." "That's right," says Harley. "We don't even know anyone on the other side yet." He reaches his hand towards her with a 20 folded between his fingers. "Oh no, I couldn't do that," says the woman. "I mean, I don't even know you." "It's okay," I say. "Please, just take it. You and your husband have been through so much. It's the least we can do." "Oh, you folks are too kind," she says, her eyes welling up with tears. Thank you so much." She takes the money from Harley's hand and gives us both a hearty hug. "Where did you folks say you were from?" "Canada," says Harley. "Oh, way up there," she says. "We're from Florida originally, but we moved up here to try and forget everything, but it didn't make much difference to Big Ronnie. Sadness has a way of sticking to him. I figured we could just make another baby, but that didn't seem to be in the cards. Not that we didn't try. She smiles when she says this, like she's remembering more than we care to imagine. Now it feels like it's too late for that already, and I'm not so sure a new baby can take the place of a dead one anyways. I don't know, I say. People are having kids in their 40s these days all the time. Don't give up too soon. I had my last one at 38. He's still living in our basement." "It's not just that," she says. "We saved up enough money to go to a clinic and all. Turns out Big Ronnie's count is on the low side. He thinks it's on account of the years he spent spraying weeds and mosquitoes for the city in Florida. They didn't even give him a mask. Not that he'd likely have worn it anyway. His boss told him those chemicals were safe enough to drink because that's what the sales guy told him." "Yeah, those guys will swear a lie in their mother's grave if they think it'll make a sale," says Harley. "I told Big Ronnie we should sue them. I even talked to a lawyer, but Big Ronnie said he didn't want the world to know he can't make babies no more. Guys are like that, I guess. Me, I'd take the $1 million and run." She opens her purse then, a little knit bag slung over her left shoulder, and tucks the money we gave her into a leather snap pouch. "Do you want to see my Derringer?" she says, grasping what I assume to be the gun in her purse. "Sure," says Harley. He's always been more curious than I am. Something about guns has always made me squirm, like I expect them to spontaneously go off. I step back a little as she pulls out a small handgun with mother of pearl handles and a shiny trigger. "I keep it loaded with 2 hollow-nosed bullets just in case I miss with the first shot," she says. And I got another handgun out in the truck. Do you need a permit for those guns? I asked. Only for the Derringer, she says, because I keep it hidden. The other one's okay so long as I keep it visible in the truck. Is it hard to get a permit? Asked Harley. Not here in South Dakota. All I had to do was show them my expired permit from Connecticut, and they gave me one right away. It was kind of funny because I got into a bit of trouble when I was younger in Connecticut. I glance at Harley when she says this, but he keeps his gaze trained on her face. We had known our own trouble when we were younger, too, much younger. That was way before I met Big Ronnie and moved to Florida. Anyway, I had a felony, but it took them 15 years to realize that and cancel my permit. It wasn't until they got computers that they figured it out. Meanwhile, when I moved to South Dakota, they didn't even check once I showed them my old permit from Connecticut. Crazy, huh? She smiles like a mischievous kid who just pulled one over on her parents as she tucks the pistol back in her purse. That's the first time I've ever seen a real Derringer, says Harley. I mean, I saw plenty of them on Westerns and on TV, but they're a lot more impressive in real life. After little Ronnie died, I used to hope somebody would give me an excuse to use this thing, but I don't feel like that anymore. What still gets me, though, is when I think about all those women who got pregnant or who get pregnant without even trying and then get rid of it like it's a piece of trash. Them women don't deserve to have kids. I think we're going to head back to our hotel and call it an early night, says Harley, and slips an arm around me. Yes, I hope the reading goes well for you, I say, and give our best to Big Ronnie. I will for sure, she says, and thanks again for paying my way. For socialists, you got to be some of the nicest people I've met. Back at the hotel room, I find myself pacing between the bathroom and the window that overlooks the main street in town. Harley lounges on the bed and starts flipping through the channels on the TV. It's not like Canada, eh? You know? You okay? He asks without taking his eyes off the screen. Yeah, I'm fine, I say. I think I'm going to take a walk. You want me to come? I can tell he'd much rather sink into the news than take a walk in the dusk with me when I'm in one of my moods. So I say, no, I'm good. I won't be long. I'll take my phone just in case I get lost. Here, take this too, in case you need to get a cab or something. He dangles an American 20 at the end of his outstretched arm. The likelihood of me needing a cab or even being able to find a cab in this small town is almost zilch, but I take it anyway and tuck it inside my phone case. Outside the front door of the hotel, I stop and look up and down the main street that runs the length of Hot Springs. The dozen streetlights that mark its course have come on already, and a small knot of cars still sits in front of the Flatiron Coffee House. For a moment, I contemplate going back up there and coughing up $20 for a reading, but the thought of anyone coming through from the other side wrenches a knot in my stomach. After all these years, could a spirit still be lost out there, wandering around wondering why it didn't get born? Harley doesn't think so, but he doesn't think anything carries on. Scared as I am at the thought of connecting with someone or something, I think I might feel even worse if no one came through. I turn and walk downhill toward the Kidney Spring, where it shelters under a softly lit gazebo at the bottom of the street. Half a dozen springs empty into the Fall River that runs along the edge of the main street, and I can hear the water burbling over the rocky riverbed under the dull thudding of my shoes. The gazebo looks half like a chapel, half like a Japanese pagoda, and as I walk towards it, I find myself walking slower and slower. That familiar pain matches my pace. It's the same pain that drove me to take the car out into the winter streets after Levon, our family mutt, passed away. Every night for weeks, I went driving the icy roads of Winnipeg looking for Levon, even though I knew I'd never find him. It was the only thing that would allow the sick feeling in my belly to subside. Harley didn't say anything, just let me do what I needed to do while he put the kids to bed. I was jealous of him then, how he could just say what's done is done and then move on. The dusk sky at the Kidney Springs silhouettes the plaster figure of a woman holding an urn of water up to the heavens like an offering. Harley and I had read the plaque below it that afternoon. The woman holding the urn looked skinny, worn out, no doubt, from too many years of cooking and cleaning and holding up that jug of water, I joked to Harley. It strikes me now what a terrible responsibility we are given to carry this fragile urn of life-giving water, to enclose it, to embrace or deny it. Harley is a sweet man, but some things are known only in the body, and he doesn't live there, not in the way I live in my body, at least. I walk past the gazebo and carry on towards the outskirts of town. It feels as if that darkness calls me to carry on past the red sandstone cliffs that bank the river and guide it out into the valleys that separate the hills beyond. I walk faster now, trusting the exertion of energy to pull me through to the other side of this weight that has climbed onto my shoulders once again. The twilight spins the air into a deep shade of purple as I leave the street lights behind and step onto the ungroomed shoulder of the county road that they call a highway. Grasshoppers flush out of the grass as I pass by, and cicadas whir and buzz in the cottonwoods alongside the river. I'm hardly half a mile out of town when a truck comes barreling down the road behind me, its headlights splitting the encroaching dark. I step well onto the shoulder to let it pass, but it slows down anyway, and then jerks to a stop 100 feet past me. I see the reverse lights come on, and a pang of fear makes my legs suddenly weak. I contemplate running for it, but a woman pops her head out of the passenger window and waves at me. Hey, hey, she calls as the truck backs up towards me. I thought it was you, she says as they pull to a stop next to me. It's little Ronnie's mother, looking at me like I'm a long-lost relative. What are you doing out here, honey? There's varmints out here this time of night, not to mention the local riffraff. When they get liquored up, you never know what they might pull. I just needed a good walk, I say. I didn't realize it gets dark so fast around here. She opens her door and the inside light comes on. Big Ronnie is in the driver's seat with the steering wheel gripped tight in his tanned hands. You better get in, he says. We'll run you back into town. It's the least we can do after you paying for Marcy's reading and all. Marcy slides over to the middle of the bench seat and I climb in beside her. A pistol swings from a leather holster hung from a hook on the dash, and a country and western song plays quietly on the radio. She taps the radio dial and the sound bumps up a notch. It's Tim McGraw, says Marcy. He's my number 2 love after Big Ronnie. Big Ronnie spins a U-turn and heads back towards town. I don't mind so long as I'm number 1, he says. Shania is my number 2. He cracks a smile and puts an arm around Marcy's bare shoulders. How did the readings go, I ask. Part of me is afraid of what wounds may have been opened up, but another part of me is far too curious not to ask. Great, says Marcy. Little Ronnie came through for both of us. Turns out he's having a good time on the other side. He's hanging out with Grandpa and Grandma Hardiker, and they're all good. I can't thank you enough for making that happen for me. Can't tell you how much better I feel, how much better both of us feel. Hey, Big Ronnie? That's for sure, says Big Ronnie. I feel like a new man. It's been hard, you know. Some days I could hardly get out of bed, but that's all done now. Before I felt like I had to go on, but now I feel like I want to go on. You hear what I'm saying? That's great, I say. I'm happy for you both. I try to sound convincing and wonder if it didn't come out sounding forced. They don't seem to notice, though, as they're too busy squeezing each other. The light of the Kidney Spring gazebo looms ahead, and I ask them to let me out there. As they drive away, I decide to spend some time at the spring before heading back to the hotel. I find myself angry for some reason as they drive off. Maybe I want what they have and feel pissed that I can't have it. Maybe I should have gone back to the coffee house and gambled $20 on a reading. Without Harley there, I might even have had a chance of believing whatever the reader had to say. I cover the last few yards to the gazebo more slowly and step under the dome of light. The spring water spills out of a small tap and into a shallow basin. I reach out and feel the warm water flowing between my fingers. Without thinking, I reach under the top of my blouse and touch my wet fingers to the skin above my heart. I can feel it ricocheting against my chest, delivering its familiar ache, the one that has ebbed and flowed through most of my adult life. Maybe Marcy was right. Maybe other babies can't take away the pain. Maybe I didn't even deserve other babies, healthy babies who never had to cower under their desks waiting to be shot, babies who lived long enough to step out on the world and on their own and make their own choices. Maybe I really deserve an eternity in hell. The faces of the 2 young girls in the coffee house flare in my mind, their accusatory blue eyes piercing and righteously proud. Before I can loose the scream that is building up inside me, I hear footsteps approaching down the pathway. I stare into the dark to see if I need to worry, but my eyes are too used to the artificial light in the gazebo and I can't see anything. For a moment, I wonder if I wouldn't feel safer with a derringer in my purse. The footfalls sound too light to be Harley's. Gradually, a female figure begins to take shape as it draws closer to me, emerging out of the deepening darkness. So here you are. Thank Christ I found you, she says. I haven't had a moment's peace all night. It takes a moment until I recognize the face of Nikki, the reader from the Flatiron Coffee House. Her thick hair is cut short, and something in her matter-of-fact way of speaking puts me at ease, even though I think she's confused. She's wearing a tight dress with a neckline my mother would have called brazen. I'm sorry, I think you must be mistaking me for someone else, I say, relieved to be forced into conversation. Oh no, you're the one I'm supposed to talk to. Mary has been tugging at my sleeve all night. She seemed to think you were going to come into the coffee house for a reading, and when you didn't show, she insisted I come looking for you down here. I was there earlier, but I didn't stay. I'm from out of town. I don't really know any Marys here, she said. I say, that could be, but there's one standing right behind you. What can I say? You're a muggle. You're not going to see her. I glance over my shoulder at the open space between me and the spring and look back at the reader. The pagoda lights shine down on her now, making her split ends sparkle. Trust me, I've been seeing this stuff since I was a kid. I'm used to it. I don't get Mary in the queue very often, though. This must be important. It starts to feel like I've stepped into some kind of rip in time. It's as if the world shrinks to this small pagoda of light and we're kicked free out into the universe somewhere. She's holding something very small in her arms, the reader says, cradling it kind of. Does that make sense to you? It might, I say, trying to push down the flutter of panic in my chest. Did you, like, lose a baby a long time ago? Not exactly a baby, I say. She's showing me the number 45, like in 1945 or maybe 45 years ago. I can't stifle the gasp that jumps out of my mouth. It's all good, she says. Mary's showing me that she's got you covered. They don't call her the lady of the lost and found for nothing, you know. My mind goes into free fall then, as if it just got pushed out of a plane. But behind the torrent of thoughts, I feel something else flooding into my body. Part of me struggles to push it away, but it comes with a force, like water gushing through a spillway. Thank you, thank you, I hear myself say. Don't thank me. I'm just the messenger. Mary's the one who's got your back. Well, thank her for me then. Oh, don't worry. She hears you loud and clear, sister. Do I owe you anything for this? I managed to stammer. Well, it was a bit of a slow night at the coffee house, but if this gets Mary off my case, it's worth doing a freebie. I pull out the $20 bill that I had tucked into my phone case and push it into her hand. Please take this, I insist. If you insist, she says as she snatches the note and jams it into her bra. I'll leave you and Mary here, she says. I need to go home and get some sleep. When I get back to our hotel room, Harley is brushing his teeth with the bathroom door open. He spits a stream of Pepsodent into the sink and says, there you are. I was starting to wonder what happened to you. Good walk? Yeah, it was great. I said, I feel so much better. I thought you would, he says, and goes back to sawing on his molars. The thought comes to me that maybe Harley had set the whole thing up. Maybe after all these years of stepping back while I duked it out with my demons, he finally hit on a plan to put an end to my torment and his. It can't have been easy for him. He could have hooked it up to the coffee house and paid Nicky to track me down and say all that stuff. Harley turns on the tap and fills the hotel glass with water. The light over the sink bounces off the surface of the water and plays across his face. Harley, I say, and wait while he gives his mouth a final swish and rinse. Yeah, he says. He's got his glasses off to wash up, so he squints at me, trying to pull me into focus. Other than a frosting of toothpaste on his mustache, nothing in his face speaks anything but his normal, reasonable self to me. Never mind, I say. What, he says. It's nothing, I say, but thanks. For what, he says. For all of it. Are you okay, he asks. Better than ever, I say. Let's go to bed.